Hello there, space wizards, plastic spacemen, and rebel princesses. Welcome to Big T and Little T, a Star Wars podcast. Welcome to episode, what are we on? 53, 54? I don't know. It is 54. And today we are going to be talking about the second episode of Bad Batch, which is Cut and Run. So, unfortunately, Little T couldn't join me today, but we got a great show planned ahead of us. And really, I'm really excited about Bad Batch because it is super, super, super cool what they're doing here. And we get to visit an old friend today. But before we get that, we'll just catch up in a little bit of week. Obviously, Mother's Day happens, so happy Mother's Day to all those space moms out there. Without you, we wouldn't be here, and we get to really our space mom is just so wonderful. Jen, she helps us do a lot of things and lets us support all our crazy habits, and so we really do appreciate her. And of course, we wouldn't be Big T Little T without her. So that is really, really, really great. Um, uh, so again, happy Mother's Day to everyone. One of the other things, let's see. We did a little stream. So if you're on Twitch, we streamed and did a little WWE 2K Battlegrounds, brother. So we did a little bit of that, which was a lot of fun. And we teased it last week, but if you haven't checked it out, we did a guest spot on Scarif Scuttlebutt, and we talked about collecting. And so Trent and I had an opportunity to do that, which was a lot of fun. So please check that out. And then, we did. We talked about collecting and all that kind of fun stuff, and Trent was blown away from all the craziness that is collecting, and how we had to eat cereal boxes. Well, not eat the cereal box, but eat the cereal in the cereal box to get the proof of purchases and all that kind of fun stuff. So yeah, it was a lot of fun doing that and having fun talking about collecting. Been playing a little Need for Speed Hot Pursuit. So been playing that a little bit, and I'm ready to dive into Resident Evil Village. So I can't wait to really kind of dive into that. I was gonna play the demo, and the demo was already over, so I was like, why did I download it? But I guess I missed the opportunity over the weekend. Didn't know that it was only a limited thing, so I'm like, well, I'm just gonna get the game and do that. So yeah, I'm gonna be checking that out. Obviously, not for Little T. But yeah, let's dive into Bad Batch, episode 2, season 1, called Cut and Run. And the team obviously just escaped from the clutches of Tarkin from Kamino, and they're on their way to planet now. Again, it's a Star Wars planet, so essentially we have, it's called Salukamami, yeah, I don't know. I am really bad with Star Wars names, but there is a connection here. A couple little connections, if you're not aware. So actually, Obi-Wan mentions this planet to Anakin, and name drops Master Voss. So it's Salakameli. See, now I'm getting tongue-tied already. Salukami has fallen, and Master Voss moved his troops to Boz Pity. That is from Revenge of the Sith. So, yeah, that is super cool. Oh yeah, I mean, I should have mentioned like everything last week with Star Wars Day. So we got, obviously we got, the Bad Batch, and we talked about that this last week. But yeah, if you celebrate Star Wars Day, then I think there was some confusion if Revenge of the Fifth is a thing, or should we celebrate Cinco de Mayo, and then it's really Revenge of the Sixth, whatever. But yeah, all those days. But anyways, this was from Revenge of the Sith, which I watched obviously a little bit last week. I had to. But this is where also Cut is one of the clone troopers that crashed on here, and then he kind of deserted during the Clone Wars, and he married Twi'lek, Sue Queen. Again, Star Wars names trip you up, but anyways, yeah. So this is where he's been hanging out, and thus that's what we're gonna dive into right now. So they mentioned, I believe they mentioned J19 is what they mentioned on the on the um on the episode last week as far as their contact that they're trying to get to. So they entered the atmosphere. We get to see a Nexu, and if you're not familiar with these, they've been around a little bit. They're called Nuna birds or Nuna. They're just like little walkie little bird things or whatever. Um, dude, I don't know, man. This is just it's pretty cool. So they get there. They kind of this planet is both arid and it's got a little jungle in it, so might as well like combining two kind of environments, which is crazy for Star Wars. The other thing where this is another Revenge of the Sith thing, just some more nerd trivia. Essentially, this is also where Adi Gallia, which is one of the Jedi Masters, and she gets taken out here. She's on the speeder bike, and yeah, she gets taken out here in Revenge of the Sith during Order 66. Yeah, it's not good. Well, that's that. Or actually, no, it's not. It's the other species of her cousin or sister. It's like Stas Ali, I think, is the one where Clone Commando Neo. Yes, there's a Neo, not Neo in Matrix, but Neo in the Clone Wars. He is a clone commander on this planet, and they're on their I want to say those are bark speeders. I don't know, BARC speeders. They're they're the predecessor to the actual speeder bikes, but this is the one where she crashes on the speeder bikes in Revenge of Sith during Order 66. Another nerd trivia there. There you go. Free of charge. So okay, so they come up to kind of a farm, and we don't know who they're gonna see. Um, and then there's some battle droids, and it's kind of like a booby trap, kind of like Return of the Jedi. And Wrecker, of course, uh, Wrecker is being Wrecker, but then Hunter's like, you gotta stand down. And then they run into the Twi'lek, who is Sue, and then obviously her clone husband Cut. And yeah, I just love this whole scene as far as them just talking to the clones. They get to introduce Echo and Omega, and yeah, he this is I really like that they tied back to this because we get to see Rex interact with Cut during the Deserter episode, which is kind of fantastic. And I forget what season that is in, but now Cut has two children, or no, I think we already knew he had two children, but that's when the like super commando droids are invading, and Rex kind of helps them out and kind of leaves them be, which I think is kind of fantastic. So I think we want to, learn a little bit from Rex, and I think we can. And I believe Hunter also knows that this is a good ally to have. They have a mutual friend in Rex, which is cool. And he name drops Captain Rex and says, oh, he just stopped a day earlier to let him know about the Imperial presence, that is. And he mentioned something about inhibitor chips, which I think is now they're starting to piece together these um, how can I put it? That this is a bad thing, like what they done with the clones. And Tech is like, yeah, how would they manage to um, handle this? And so essentially, that's what they did. They did inhibitor chips. So it's kind of interesting that they're doing that, and they're talking like casually about it. But Tech's like, yeah, that's how they would do that and control us. And so um, it kind of goes back to that issue with the clones as far as free will, and what they do with that free will is something that I like really enjoy talking about in Clone Wars. Is that the battle droids and the clones are very, very much similar in nature, and they don't have a lot of choice. They're bred for war, which is kind of interesting. Okay, so they play catch. Omega's never played catch before, so you get to play catch, and they have fun, and they're having ball and just hanging out, and just kind of it's just kind of cool seeing them Omega just basically being a kid. uh he just basically, talking to Cut, he's like, hey, Camino is not where we need to be, had to get cut loose, get out of there. And so they're gonna try to book transport off world, which seems legit, just trying to get out. um so Cut and Hunter kind of almost, go to town, and they're trying to lay low, but part of me is like, Hunter, don't you want to take off that like skull headband or something? But they go in town, and it's interesting. They mention need a chain code. So this is kind of new. Not only do they need their ID, but this chain code thing. Um, I'm wondering if this is the only time it's mentioned. Um, Chain code essentially is mentioned. I know it's mentioned a little bit in Mandalorian, which Boba is kind of talking about his. He's talking about his heritage, and he kind of pops up from his little gauntlet and says, hey, this is my chain code, and you can see this. I believe a bunch of nerds kind of figured out what it says, but essentially it's kind of like his description of his heritage and stuff like that. Yeah, so chain codes, and I think it's also dropped. I think that's also mentioned in some dialogue with the Mandalorians. Anyways, it's a way to it's kind of like, I don't know if I think it has biometric uh numbers. It's kind of just essentially keeping track of everybody, which is what Cut and Hunter understand now. Like, in order to do this, they need this chain code. um it's just going to get a little harder. So the playing ball again, and then we have the encounter with the Nexu. And Nexu is probably one of my favorite animals in Star Wars. Again, this is from Attack of the Clones, where Princess Amidala gets conveniently cut in the midriff. The Nexu conveniently cuts at the midriff, and she gets cut in the back. And yeah, it's a cool cat, lots of eyes, kind of cross between like a spider and a big cat. And obviously Anakin takes him out with a reek. But in this instance, Nexu are near the farm, and there's like a perimeter fence, and the ball goes beyond that perimeter fence. Omega, being who she is, understands like, I need to get it because that's their ball for the kids. She does that, and there's an Nexu there. And essentially, Cut's wife, again, what is her name? She totally takes him out. She's good at the old sniper, and takes out the Nexu, and there's this little kind of dad moment, which I really like, between Cut and Omega and Hunter, and essentially like Hunter doesn't know what to do with it. About he's really angry about Omega disobeying orders, and so he's trying to teach her like a soldier. But Cut's like, "Are you okay? Are you fine?" And I really kind of like that. Sue and Cut work with Omega as like a person, and Hunter's trying to deal like this is our squad, and she needs to be a good soldier. But also he's kind of realizing like, hey, I could be a space dad here, and I need to kind of change my tactics. And that's they have this kind of cool conversation between Cut and Hunter, which I like. Uh, and Wrecker's like, is she all right? Like Wrecker, they don't know. They kind of don't know really what to do with that kind of emotions because they're just soldiers. But Cut said she'll be fine. Um, yeah. So essentially, Hunter gets mad at Omega, and they kind of hang. She kind of hangs out in the shuttle, um, and so essentially, what they do is they got to figure out this chain code thing, and so that's where Tech comes in. Essentially, they know that there's an outpost, and they know that based on some surveillance that they do, they understand that they kind of repo these shuttles, and then they kind of identify them and tag them in this one spot, and it's heavily guarded by clones, obviously. And so the plan is essentially that Tech is going to get in there, replicate the chain code formula, get chain codes for the family, Cut and his family, get them off planet, and then the Bad Batch is essentially going to take their shuttle and get out of Dodge too. So that's kind of what's happening here. Um, Kind of intense little packed section here of the show, which I kind of like. So essentially, when they send off the shuttle, Tech and Echo are in there, but they didn't realize Omega's in there. So Omega's in there, which is not good. They want they got to get Omega off, and they do get Omega off, and but there's a little kink in the plan. Um, they get all the stuff, and essentially Echo has to get to this little command post. He does his thing, he slices and dices, gets the card. I mean, it's all this thing. um yeah, it's kind of crazy. But they essentially get what they need without too much trouble. uh so essentially, Hunter and the group, um, they get them lined up. They need the chain codes. Essentially, Hunter tells Omega like, "Hey, you are going to be part of this family. You don't really belong here." Omega is very torn by it, but understands that, here we got 5 chain codes. This is for you to get off world. It was kind of sudden, like, hey, we're gonna depart with that. Um, Echo is essentially Wrecker. Or Omega runs into a little backtracking. Omega runs out, and Wrecker saves the day, and essentially gets her back and united with Hunter. But that's when she finds out, oh, I'm going with this family. Not cool. Essentially, then they Hunter they have this kind of cool moment as that they kind of show this in Rogue One and in Solo, and particularly in Solo, where um as they're in the kind of, I guess it would be more of like a train station. I forget what kind of area that's at, but essentially they're trying to get transport off world, and Solo and Kira are boarding, and there's kind of this intense thing. Obviously, they exchange some. Geez, what am I? What is that? What did they exchange? I'm totally blanking on. Oh, it's gonna kill me. Uh, Coaxium. Jeez, there it is. It was there. It was there, deep in the recesses. Coaxium to the Imperial person to get off world, off transport, and we noticed that once Kira gets captured, the stormtroopers are shaking down other people, and they're separating from families and stuff like that. So we get to see um, again, another species I should know, but essentially Snaggletooth, they kind of tell this guy, hey, without your chain code, you can't get on, and kind of shake him down. And so now they're getting the chain codes. Omega gets the chain codes to Hunter and team. That's where we get the 5 cards, and that's where Hunter tells Omega, hey, you gotta go with them. Pretty tense part. The clone troopers are kind of looking at them, looking at each other. There's even a point where one of the clones kind of recognizes Hunter. Hey, you kind of or cut. You kind of look like but then there's a firefight because now Tech and Echo are found out. Wrecker's causing havoc, and now Hunter kind of jumps ship and goes and helps them too. They get into a pickle. It's pretty much a big pickle, and um, and so essentially, um, Cut boards. Hunter gets visual that Cut and family join are in. They're in the shuttle. They launch, and then that's when they kind of rally, and they board the ship. But there's a little catch to it. Omega decides, hey, I'm not. This is not my family. You guys are my family, which is pretty cool. I really enjoy Omega's kind of decision there, and essentially we get back to what we've seen before with the Bad Batch and Clone Wars. Wrecker is using the Gong Droid to practice his bicep curls. Tech and Echo are flying the ship. Uh, and essentially, we have this kind of cool, kind of tender moment where um, Omega, is apologizing to Hunter. Um, but essentially, she says, she tells Hunter, you didn't need to get rid of me. Uh, she essentially says, hey, I left Camino with you, and I want to be with you. And Hunter has this kind of really cool moment. Again, more of like a kind of a dad moment, I would say. Also, just learning a little bit more about himself. And he's like, I got a lot to learn too, so we're gonna learn together. And and they kind of just like, hey, we're gonna hang out, and we're gonna figure this out together. Which to me, I think it's pretty cool. And essentially that's how the episode ends. So, yeah, I just really like how they're Hunter. Obviously, we find out again he's disobeying orders. Obviously, in episode 1, where first it's Caleb, Kanan with the Jedi, and then we see him questioning Tarkin's initiatives with the refugees, and these are insurgents. And now there's this whole thing as far as like he understands what Cut has been doing with his family and how he's laid low and had his whole thing. But now this Omega thing with him is like a totally different thing, and he doesn't know what to do with it. And so I really like how they're kind of humanizing the clones again, and Cut is essentially like kind of that role model for them, and Hunter's just trying to figure out, okay, what do I need to do to make that happen, which I think is kind of cool. And yeah, it's a fun episode. We get to see Sackle Lamy or whatever. We get to see that planet again. Not only we get to see it in Revenge of the Sith, but now we get to see it back in cartoon form, which is kind of cool. That's super awesome. And yeah, I am really interested to see kind of where this goes. Um, I'm still trying to figure out what Omega is, and that the line that was said about Omega, like what is her purpose, is still trying to figure out. Like what is that correlation? She's discovering herself. There's definitely some I wouldn't say she's force sensitive, but there's definitely something there where she was recognizing emotions in episode 1, and Trent and I talked about that last week, and it's like there's something there. So I'm interested to see where that's going to happen and what's going to go with a character. I'm really enjoying Hunter. He's definitely a little bit different than what we seen in Clone Wars season 7, but I know that it's going to be fun seeing him develop. And then I'm really, the whole thing with Crosshair, I really feel like Tarkin's going to use him as this kind of like cool assassin type person and probably go after the Bad Batch. And I think one of the things that Trent and I did not touch on last week, which is very interesting, is that essentially the Camino say that the clones are better, and we know that stormtroopers are not as accurate and as efficient as clones. But the thing that essentially, from a cloning perspective, they're expensive. But it's interesting that here's the Emperor trying to cut cost here when they spend, he builds 2 Death Stars, no big deal. Death Star 2 is like 10 times bigger. So really, I don't think money's an object for him, but essentially though it is for this, and it really costs them in the end. If they kept with the clones, they'd be more efficient, and they wouldn't have to recruit from off-world, and essentially it's, I don't know, I we don't know too much, but essentially right now it seems like it's not mandatory like it is the First Order, where First Order was essentially kidnapping babies similar to the Jedi and just brainwashing them to be part of the First Order. It seems like the Empire, and again, even Luke and Han wanted to go, well, Han was in the Academy, Luke wanted to be in the Academy and essentially be an Imperial. So it still seems like in some respects the Empire is not, from a outsider perspective, is not evil yet. I don't know. It's hard to tell because it seems like there's desire to be that, but also we see in Rebels where Wedge and Hobby and a bunch of other people defect. So I think as the Empire progresses, I think that's where we see more of the true nature of them show up. But back to the clones and stormtroopers, I think Tarkin is there to evaluate, and essentially he wants to shut down the program because it's too expensive. But in the long run, it's too expensive for the Empire to maintain all these stormtroopers that technically can't shoot or whatever or do what they're bred, like clones are bred from Jango, which we know Jango and Boba are awesome. So yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. I think that's, I don't know if they're going to explore that anymore in Bad Batch, but I think that is very interesting. The cost of war is definitely high, but if the Emperor kind of stuck with the clones or made different clones based off a different genome, I don't know. That could go a lot of different ways. Anyways, that's a whole different thing, but I just think it's interesting that that cost of war is something that he doesn't want to do, but he's okay with building Death Stars and all that kind of stuff and super weapons. Anyways, that's it for episode 54. Thanks again for listening to another episode. You can find us on the socials, Big LILT podcast, on the Instagram, BLILT Podcast on Twitter, and then twitch.tv/Big TLILT on the old Twitch. So you can find us there. Hey, if you want to rate us on Apple Podcast, give us a 5-star rating, or if you want to send in a question, any kind of Star Wars question or whatever, you can do that at Big TLILT podcast at gmail.com. You do that, drop us a question or give us a rating, 5-star rating, we will send you a sticker and some swag and throw it in your face. So definitely do that. We love hearing from you guys. So please do that. And we can read it on an upcoming episode. So next week, again, we're going to be talking about Bad Batch for the next couple weeks. And it's going to be episode 3. And yeah, looking forward to that. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun seeing where this goes, how the storylines are going to interact with Revenge of the Sith, and yeah, you know, where this little, as the Empire grows, like what those kind of like things that we could see, those foundations that we see, that we know very well in A New Hope and Rebels. So kind of interested to see that. But yeah, so next week, episode 3 on Double Nickel. We're reaching Double Nickel, which is episode 55. So looking forward to that. We always end the show this way. Truly wonderful the mind of the child is, and may the Force be with you always. Bye. See you later. Bye.